Who was the director who came in here and started to stage the scene?
You're obviously the director.
Yeah, but I'm not having a chance to.
He doesn't scream. He applies pressure. Francis Ford Coppola draws a hard line. Cross it, and the film keeps going without you.
And we fought all through the thing, because it wasn't my dream, and I was trying to learn his dream.
For 50 years, he's run sets like battlefields. Actors walk off mid-scene, accuse him of psychological warfare, or get erased from the movie after only a few days in the jungle. And under all of it is the same obsession. Protect the film at any cost.
Because I can stop.
What are you waiting to Keanu for? Keanu never does anything. You just walk right out of the thing.
The chaos on his latest epic, Megalopolis, is already being talked about in the same breath as Apocalypse Now. The last time an actor showed up wildly unprepared, forced frantic rewrites in the jungle, and nearly pushed Coppola and the entire production over the edge. Tonight, 5 clashes he reportedly hated living through. Not gossip, documented damage. Stay to the end for the final name. The one so volatile, he almost killed Apocalypse Now, and became the standard every difficult actor still gets measured against. Number 5. Shia LaBeouf. Francis Ford Coppola has a simple rule. The movie comes first, your feelings come second. On Megalopolis, a $100+ million gamble he largely financed himself after selling off part of his wine empire, that rule hit Shia LaBeouf head-on. Coppola expected total obedience to the vision. LaBeouf wanted to challenge, rewrite, question every beat. The result was open conflict so intense it became the spine of Megadoc, the behind-the-scenes film shot during production. LaBeouf says Coppola labeled him the most difficult actor he's ever worked with. The only time in the entire shoot, Coppola was even caught losing his temper on camera. Coppola later emailed him to apologize for the blow-up, and in the same breath, praised his performance. That matters. Even when he's furious, Coppola is still protecting the film, not his ego. Why is Shia at number 5 on the actors Coppola hated working with? Because this wasn't ancient history. During the 2022 to 2023 shoot of Megalopolis, with Coppola in his 80s and self-financing the entire movie, he was still willing to clash, scorch the room, and dare you to keep up. And if you couldn't handle that pace, it wasn't Coppola who left. Number 4. Gary Oldman. Francis Ford Coppola's problem with Gary Oldman wasn't talent, it was control. On Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992, Coppola was building an operatic, theatrical horror film. Stylized lighting, in-camera tricks, expressionist blocking. He needed every beat to land exactly where he put it. Gary Oldman, meanwhile, wasn't interested in being moved around like scenery. He was already treating Dracula as his personal territory, full immersion, never dropping character, demanding that the scene shape around him. Cast and crew have said Oldman stayed in that headspace constantly, and it made the set feel volatile. That tension finally spilled on camera. In rare behind-the-scenes footage from the shoot, you see Coppola and Oldman in a heated exchange over how to stage a moment. It escalates. Oldman refuses to just do it that way, and he walks off the set while the film is still rolling. That clip keeps resurfacing because it's not rumor, it's documented friction between the star and the director. This is why Oldman lands on a list of actors Coppola reportedly hated working with. Not because Coppola thought he was bad, the opposite. Oldman's performance is still held up as one of the definitive Draculas. Coppola just wasn't running a democracy. Years later, Oldman has said he did the movie because he wanted to work with Coppola, and still calls him one of the greatest living American directors. Translation, you can clash with Coppola, even walk off his set, and he'll still get the version of the film he saw in his head. Number 3. Winona Ryder. With Winona Ryder, Francis Ford Coppola wasn't dealing with laziness or ego. He was dealing with emotion on camera, and how far you're allowed to push to get it. On Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992, Ryder later said Coppola tried an old-school directing tactic during a breakdown scene. Provoke the actor until the tears are real. She said he raised his voice off camera and urged others to pile on so she'd crack on cue, and that Keanu Reeves and Anthony Hopkins refused to participate. That story went everywhere, fast. But here's the part people never headline. Coppola publicly denied instructing the men to verbally attack her, and Ryder backed him up. Both said the intention wasn't humiliate her, it was get the moment. Ryder's team even called working with Coppola a great privilege, and said she still loves and respects him. So why is Winona on a list of actors Coppola reportedly hated working with? Because this is where the method almost crossed the line. The set was intense enough that she remembers it 30 years later. Controlled chaos or not, it left a mark. Coppola's position is basically, the film has to feel honest, even if the path there is uncomfortable. Ryder's position is, it was rough, but we're good. That balance, pressure versus damage, is exactly why this chapter still gets argued. Number 2. Harvey Keitel. Francis Ford Coppola doesn't just argue with you. If he decides you're wrong for his film, he'll cut you out of the film. Fast. When Apocalypse Now began shooting in the Philippines, the lead role of Captain Willard didn't belong to Martin Sheen. It belonged to Harvey Keitel. Coppola had cast him to anchor the movie, the damaged assassin sent upriver to confront Kurtz. They flew to the jungle, started rolling, and within days Coppola made a brutal call. Keitel was out. Sheen was flown in to replace him, and scenes were reshot. Why? Coppola later said Keitel just wasn't giving him the internal, haunted, increasingly unsteady observer he needed. He felt Keitel's energy was too forward, too confrontational, not the quiet, unraveling witness the story depends on. Sources close to the production say Coppola didn't believe that version of Willard would survive months in the jungle without tearing the whole tone off course. Keitel has pushed back for years. He said the story that he couldn't handle the jungle is nonsense. He'd served in the US Marines and wasn't afraid of the conditions. What bothered him was the narrative that he got dumped because he was weak. He calls that a blurring of the truth. From Coppola's side, though, this is the point. If you're not in tune with the film he's trying to pull out of the chaos, you don't get time to work it out. You're gone. In a production already drowning in typhoons, budget fires, and near breakdowns, he wasn't going to gamble the entire movie on a performance he didn't believe in. Number 1. Marlon Brando. This is the name Francis Ford Coppola never really escaped. By the time Apocalypse Now hit its late-stage shoot in the Philippines, the production was already on fire. Typhoons wrecking sets, helicopters being pulled mid-scene, the budget bleeding out, Martin Sheen literally having a near-fatal heart attack, and Coppola himself on the edge. Then, Marlon Brando arrived. According to behind-the-scenes accounts and the documentary Hearts of Darkness, Brando showed up extremely heavy, hadn't locked into the role, and refused to play Colonel Kurtz the way he'd been written, an emaciated, dying ghost at the end of the river. Coppola suddenly had no ending. He had to throw out pages, hide Brando in shadow, shoot him in fragments, and rebuild the final act around whatever Brando was willing to give. This wasn't normal, creative tension. Brando stalled shooting, demanded long private talks, and forced Coppola to improvise philosophy-heavy monologues instead of the lean, military horror the script called for. Crew who were there described Coppola as exhausted, terrified the film would collapse, and basically rewriting the movie in real time just to survive Brando. That's why Brando is number 1 on the actors Coppola hated working with. Not because he wasn't a genius, Coppola has always admitted he was, but because Brando nearly killed Apocalypse Now. And 45 years later, actors are still comparing themselves to that level of difficult. Coppola's worst day with you is measured against Brando in the jungle. Francis Ford Coppola doesn't plead with actors to fall in line. He survives them. From Shia LaBeouf's creative clashes on Megalopolis to Gary Oldman's walk-off on Dracula, from Winona Ryder's emotional challenge to Harvey Keitel's abrupt replacement, and finally to Marlon Brando, the one who nearly sank Apocalypse Now. These stories reveal a director relentlessly committed to his vision, regardless of the cost. Now we turn to you. Which of these legendary clashes would you have wanted to witness, and which actor posed the greatest challenge to Coppola's rule?